Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 86 F's to Give podcast. I'm your host, Al, and today we are joined by Megan Theiller, our fifth guest on the episode. Thanks for joining us, Meg.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here and excited that you offered me the opportunity to join.
I am just equally as excited to have this conversation today. Really quick, for people that don't know, in this podcast, we 86 things, and that is a reference to the food industry where when they run out of things in the kitchen, they 86 it. So they would say like 86 chicken. Here we 86 things we're trying to let go of, things we're working on not doing, and continuing to go after our goals and 86ing not caring about what people think. So today we are going to be 86ing multitasking. And we're going to dive all into it, things we should do instead, what's worked for us, things we're currently doing. But before we do all that, I wanted to introduce Megan a little bit, how we know each other, and then we'll have her tell us more about herself. So Megan and I worked together in Costa Rica. She hired me to work for Beyond Sports back in 2021. And it was honestly a life-changing experience. And now Meg and I are friends. And I truly look up to Megan. I think she's just such a badass woman and mother. And I am just so grateful to have her in my life. So Meg, tell us more about yourself, where you're from, your background, how you're in Costa Rica. Tell us everything.
Absolutely. So let's see, I'm originally from New York, where I grew up. I went to school at Fairfield University, where I played volleyball 4 years there, and essentially landed myself a position with Beyond Sports upon graduation. And as kind of Ali, you mentioned, just Beyond Sports coming into my life and being able to provide what was at least supposed to be a 1-year program. It quite literally changed my life as well, to the point where, I was brought down to Costa Rica. I'm still here 7.5, almost 8 years later. And just so grateful for that opportunity, because I have been introduced and gotten to work with so many, especially badass women, including Ali, way back when. It feels like so long ago, but also feels like just yesterday. But yeah, in terms of Beyond Sports getting involved, I was just really lucky that Beyond Sports took a chance on me for their first year fellowship program, and just fell in love, I guess, quite literally, with with Costa Rica. Found who is now my husband, and have kind of just settled down here. I have 2 little beautiful girls. One is almost 6 months, and one is 4 years, going on 14. But that's a whole other different story there. And then 2 dogs of my own. So Costa Rica, Beyond Sports, really just have created such a path that I didn't even know existed for myself, for my future here. So in terms of what I do with Beyond Sports now, I am a director of our college programs, but we wear a lot of different hats at Beyond Sports, so it's not just limited to that. And then another thing that I had picked up during my time in Costa Rica was just, it was kind of sparked by this transition. We can get into that, but just entering into motherhood and just all the fun challenges that come with that made me really realize that I just needed to kind of pump the brakes and look into something for myself, and hopefully something that could eventually help other people. And that was holistic health coaching. So something that I'll talk a little bit about later, but that's another hat that I wear when I'm not being a mom, which, just kidding, that's a 24/7 job. But yeah, just kind of have brought me here today, and I'm really excited to dive into the rest of the conversation.
I wanted to mention too that you texted me like months back saying that you like added 86ing into your vocabulary, and that's kind of what sparked the conversation of us even recording this podcast together. And that one made me so happy, because like it's just cool to see like little things that I've shared online with people like entering into their like little bubble of the world. And that's just so cool. But then also like people trying to, I think obviously Costa Rica and what Beyond Sports does is a lot of, especially the program Glass that we worked in, together is a lot of like self-reflection, self-growth. And so like it's just so cool to see, and I just love bonding with people over what they're trying to work on. And so both you and I we'll talk more about, you shared the struggles with, or just balancing motherhood and all the things. And so obviously I just have one dog, but he is a handful too. So I understand a small fraction of it. But yeah, balancing just so many different things really, and being athletes, I think also the mindset of just, pushing through no matter what is something that we both experience and can bond over. So we'll talk more about that too. But I'm really excited to kind of dive into our whys and the things that we've struggled with and kind of what we are working on now. Meg, you touched on this a little bit already, but what kind of drives you to want to 86 multitasking?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing just being the transition, honestly, over the past several years, but more recently, adding a second kid into my life. Just this kind of, I would say, stereotype that, moms are typically running around and doing a million things at once. And although that is very true, I think, recently I've found that like I feel very spread thin. I exhausted at the end of the day, just because I feel like I'm trying to do all of these things at the same time. And I just feel very overstimulated a lot of times where, just so many of it's like sense overload where I might be nursing my little one and then I'm thinking, oh, that's like barely doing anything. So I'm also doing something on my phone at the same time. And then all of a sudden my 4-year-old daughter comes in and like asks me something and I'm like so snippy. And I'm like, that's so, I don't want that for myself, nor do I want that for my daughter. And I just can tell that I was just trying to take on way too many things at once. And I get it, obviously there are a lot of things that I'm trying to balance in my life, but I think that we can kind of approach that in a different way where it's like I'm not left irritable and snippy and just like pushing past my breaking point on a regular basis. So that's kind of the motivation and where I'm currently struggling in my life and hoping to 86, this multitasking idea where people are like, if you want to get a lot of stuff done, this is the only route. And it's just clear to me that that is one way. But I think for me at this point in my life, it's not working for me. And I really just need to pause and rethink how I kind of approach all the different things that I'm balancing.
I love that. Reframing is something I talk about in like most of these episodes, like trying to tell yourself, like reteach yourself, unlearn and relearn things that society or, just different aspects of our lives have taught us. And back to like the athlete thing, like it's like, okay, we got to do our homework. And well, I'm stretching while I'm writing an essay. Like I literally would do that. Like, can I just focus on my essay? Like I'm icing my back while I'm trying to, like, so many things. So I think trying to unlearn things that just our experiences have taught us is so huge. Like, yeah, maybe that worked for us when we were 20 and in college and like didn't have kids or things like to focus on or a full-time job or multiple jobs or whatever. Like, and then realizing like, okay, now we're however many years out from that and being like, okay, I need to take a different approach. I think for me too, something I struggle with is like focusing on just one thing at a time. I literally will find myself like at work doing something that is like important, like needs to be done that day. And then somebody will walk in and be like, hey, do you want to like walk to the mailroom with me or do with me? And I'm like, sure. I like hop up and like have no boundaries of like, oh, actually, I'm doing something really important right now. Like, can we do that in 30 minutes or an hour or whatever? And that's something I want to be better at too. So, we're just doing one task and then being like, oh, I actually need to do this. And then like I have 80 tabs open and they're all like half done tasks. And I'm like, how do I ever get one thing done? So that's kind of my why. Just being able to focus and be disciplined and set boundaries when other distractions kind of come into play. And I was doing some research on multitasking kind of to prepare for this conversation. And when you like just Google multitasking, a lot of like articles come up saying that like it's not actually possible for our brains to multitask. We're just like switching from task to task extremely quickly, which when you think about that, it's almost like even more overwhelming. Like oh, like I'm doing this and then all of a sudden I'm doing this and like then I have to go back and remember what I was doing. Like that just like actually makes me like give me like heart palpitations.
Think about how much energy it takes to change directions. Like, and we don't even realize
Right.
that, but I feel like, yeah, we're more exhausted than if we just stuck to one, finish that task, then move on to the next.
Such a good point. And I just thought that was interesting, like going into this conversation because um like society looks at multitasking as a strength. Like I feel like I even said that in job interviews. I'm sure you have too. Like when people ask like what is a strength of yours? Like the first thing I say is like I'm really good at multitasking. I can, get a lot of things done in a short amount of time and like yes, that's true, but like are they all done to the best of my ability? Are there little spelling errors? Are there, little tiny mistakes that maybe I wouldn't have made if I slowed down? Um, like I feel like society just kind of makes it seem like it's this great thing that we do. And I know you touched on that a little bit as well with like moms. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like feeling the pressure of like outside sources thinking that multitasking is like a good thing.
This concept that we have to be moving like 1,000 miles per hour, and if you're not, you're doing something wrong, or you're behind, or things along those lines. Where it's just, I think there's something to be said about you can still manage a lot of tasks and balance a lot of tasks, but how you truly execute those tasks, I think, is where I know I want to make that change. So yeah, especially mothers just being nonstop. I think of like this like uh I feel like almost Octopus comes into mind, where they have all these different like arms, and like you just have like, okay, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're getting the kids' lunches ready, or you're carrying the baby in this one, but you're also trying to slip in some food at the same time, and like all of a sudden you're doing it at the same time. So it is one of those things where I just like really trying to chunk that up and like focus on one thing at a time. So yeah, society's, I would say, not on our side when it comes to that, but yeah, that's also what I feel like makes at least us talking about this and being intentional about this is what I love, is just really trying to create a new standard for us, but also those people in our lives, where it's the people in our circle are kind of going to be like, oh, like, okay, we don't have to do this that way. There's another way to go about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's kind of like the whole goal, right? Like it's to like just make a small impact and then they're going to impact their circle that might not include us. And then, um, yeah, that's actually such a good point. It's really important to like stick. That's what boundary setting is, right? Like it sets those boundaries and then other people are like, oh, that's something that like a boundary can be set there. Like I had no idea. And then they can kind of set the boundaries in their lives. And then it's a ripple effect where maybe years down the line, society's not thinking we need to be multitasking as fast and as, thinking it's this great thing that we do and it's our superpower. Like maybe taking a chill pill every now and then is, kind of the way to go. I also feel like going from being both athletes and in school for the first like 18 whatever years of your life, you are just like kind of trained to multitask. Like I would be doing homework for a different class in a different class, like, and still trying to take notes for that class and trying to be as efficient as possible. And you talk about efficiency a lot in that word, and we can talk switch it to in a second. But like, I feel like what we're trying to do today is kind of redefine what efficiency means to us because, being in school, being in athletes, being moms, being full-time employees, like the goal is efficiency, but figuring out what is like the best way to go about that, I think is kind of what we're trying to do here. You agree, Meg?
No, absolutely. I think efficiency definitely, it was a concept that was instilled in me from my younger days, and it definitely is. It's deep in there. So like rewiring it, redefining it, as you mentioned, it is challenging. It is very, very hard, but definitely working to just try and shift that slightly. And I think when I think of efficiency, I also think of productivity, and those two things being productive, but not at the expense of my health type of thing, or, your health is just something that you still want to be efficient without sacrificing those needs. So, yeah, we're definitely approaching it and imagining, redefining what that looks like is, although tough, I'm excited to start that conversation and continue to just implement those changes in my daily life.
So what should we be doing instead of multitasking? Do you want to take it away with some things maybe you've learned in your holistic health coaching or just research or your kind of experience there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I was first introduced to this concept through my health coaching curriculum back in 2021. And it was just kind of something that I felt like the seed was planted at that moment, where it definitely was eye-opening to think about, okay, all right, we can manage a bunch of things, but like, how are we actually executing that so we're not left exhausted and, a tank is on E at the end of the day. The first thing that comes to mind for me is just really getting intentional about kind of blocking off the day, knowing, okay, I've got, these things that I have to complete today. I'm going to, give myself 30 minutes, an hour to work on this. And then I'm going to build in rest or build in a reset, because that's just kind of something that's unheard of. I think just from, society doesn't emphasize the importance of rest, but that rest and that recharge moment is super important. And that should be included in like when you're blocking off your time. So instead of, I think whether it's, setting a timer, somebody else, or whatever you can do to hold yourself accountable to focus on one task at one time for a set amount of time.
This is something that I've like really extremely recently been trying to implement. The whole time blocking thing. One of my best friends, Marina, kind of like introduced the phrase of time blocking to me, and it makes perfect sense, right? But when I like try to do it, it's like, and I talked about this actually in the last episode, like having discipline of doing things like for myself is so hard. But like if you asked me to do something, I'd be like, heck yeah, Meg, I got you. But like doing something that's like just because I want to do it, that's like maybe not the most fun thing to do, but something I know I should do, is so hard. So I'm like, okay, I make up this like time block for my day, but like who's gonna get me? Like I'm not gonna get in trouble. Like nothing's gonna happen if I don't do it. So then I'm just like, okay, like I'll just switch it up. Like you know what I mean? So it's like, that's where my lack of discipline affects my like ability to like be productive in a productive way, like not trying to like multitask and do 8 things at the same time. So time blocking is something I've been trying to implement really, and it's been going okay. It's so hard.
I'm just gonna say, you kind of like talk about this idea of discipline, and I think what recently has come to my attention is, especially with kids and everything, but it doesn't matter. I think just like post-college in general, the number of decisions, because we create more of our own schedule these days. We don't have to show up at class at this time and show up to practice games at this time. We have a lot more freedom to decide, okay, how am I going to, or what am I going to do with my time? And we still have obviously these, got to be efficient, got to be productive, got to get it done. But when you talk about struggling to make decisions where it's like, no, I have this and I'm going to focus on this for me rather than someone else. I recently saw something where it's like saying yes to that means saying no to something else. So like saying no to your inner peace, saying no to like a basic, need of like, I know that this, like when I take on too many things at once, or if I do something else for someone else and I told myself I was going to do this during this 30 minutes, it's like, all right, I know that my battery is going to like drain faster, or I'm going to potentially feel a little bit more irritated because I didn't get the thing done that I set my expectation to. So just really leaning into that decision of like, okay, if I say yes to this, that means I'm saying no to something else. What is that like I'm saying no to? And that just was like mind blowing for me, where I'm like, I'm making all these decisions for someone else rather than, okay, my inner peace is getting disrupted. I'm all of a sudden brought up to here. I'm overstimulated, but like, it's a challenging thing that, saying no and setting those boundaries, as you mentioned, is just, I would say that we're disciplined people, but when it comes to that, like it is so challenging.
No, I love that. I definitely am going to like ask myself that next time somebody like comes in and is like, hey, do you want to go on a walk with me? While I'm like mid task that I'm like so close to being finished. Like that is such a good, like, take a moment, ask yourself, what does saying yes to this mean I'm saying no to? Or what is it? What are the repercussions if I say yes? Like, even if it's nothing or it's fine, like just asking yourself that question, then being like, okay, yeah, I actually can still do that. And I'll maybe still have time to do this task. Or no, I actually don't want to say yes to that, because then I know I'll be really disappointed in myself because I didn't, like you said. I love that. That's like, that is so mind blowing. I love little like questions that just really stop you in your tracks. Like, that is so like such a good thing to do. And when you said the, you know, the expectations things, I think that's like a lot of this too, is like reframing what your expectations are. Cause like I maybe set an unrealistic expectation of what I can get done in a day. And then I'm mad at myself because I didn't do the 25 things on my to-do list. Like, girl, like that's impossible.
Exactly the same thing over here. I like put my daughter down for a nap and I'm like, I'm going to get through like 10 things. I'm like, let's remind yourself, Megan, that your daughter probably sleeps for 15 minutes. Like, what do you think you're going to get done in 15 minutes? So 100%, I think I was talking with another mom recently and she was like, yeah, you just kind of learn to like reset those expectations for yourself. Where you're not, I'll say, so on like setting yourself up for failure sort of thing, where it's just like, well, what do you expect? Like, you put all these things on your to-do list. And even though I tell myself it'd be nice to finish it, the athlete side of me is like, we're getting it done. Like, one way or another, you could be dragging yourself across the finish line, but as long as you finished, you finished. And I'm like, no, like if it's like 3 things, I'm like, I should probably chop it down to just one thing and just feel good about getting that one thing done for the day. And if I can get more, great. But we're not pushing ourselves and, exhausted doing it. So I feel that.
I think you bring up such a good point too. And I think all athletes will like, I was literally like aggressively nodding my head when you said like you're competitive with yourself almost, like especially now that like we're not in collegiate athletics or whatever. Like, what am I supposed to do? I have to have some competition in my life. Like, of course I'm going to be competitive with myself now, and like finding healthy ways to do that, obviously with like, maybe movement or exercise, but then like still even just like getting done my to-do list. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I can do 25 things today. Yeah, totally. Like and I'm going to do them. Like, and like, that's such a good point of like reframing that mindset and being like, okay, I don't have to like compete with myself all day. Like, as long as, maybe I get this done by whatever day I need to get, or whatever. And it reminds me of something that I try to do when I am making my to-do list, is make like to do in order list. And that has been so helpful because one, it's like you're forced to prioritize things, because sometimes when you make your to-do list, you like, well, I know for me, I'm like writing it randomly and then I'm skipping all around, and then I'll look back at my to-do list and I'm halfway through one thing, but I'm like, oh shoot, that's probably more important. I should probably stop this thing and do the other thing. So writing them down in order, or like writing them all down and then putting them in an order, is really helpful for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do this task and I'm not allowed to move on to number 2 until I finish it. And then that's when the discipline comes in, and being like, okay, you actually have to stick to that. And then, like you said, maybe only putting one thing on that list, or making a like master to-do list, but then pulling 2 things from it for that day and being like, if I get these 2 things off of my huge to-do list, I will be happy. Like, that is like way more realistic than just having this massive list and being like, okay, what can I do? And then you're forced to make more decisions. Like, you're not setting yourself up for success, like you said. So I think that's so huge. Like, making it as like the limited decisions is one thing, and then not being so competitive with yourself is like another thing that and like, it's healthy in some areas of your life, right? Like, okay, like maybe I want to go run an extra mile than I've never ran before. Like, sure, like push yourself or whatever, or see if you can, how fast you can get the dishes put away. Like, I get like having fun competition. Like, we would do that when I lived with Carly and Liv. Like, let's see how fast we can reset the living room. Like, whatever. Like, that's fun.
Yeah, I think the to-do list is kind of like that moment where you're setting expectations for the day. So setting yourself up for success, I love the numbered order, like the ordered list that you mentioned, something that I definitely can benefit from, because like you said, even if you're jumping around, like my eyes are still seeing, like I'm thinking about the other one, because I didn't set myself up for, okay, first we're doing this, then we're doing this. And obviously within reason, you can be flexible, but like at least trying your best to set yourself up for success with that to-do list, because to-do lists are awesome. And they're also equally, could be a pain point or something where it's like, if we're setting unrealistic expectations, they're kind of defeating the purpose as well, where it's like not defeating the purpose, but just not the most useful tool.
They're limiting. They can be limiting sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Limiting.
No, I think that's such a good point. They like, or restricted is probably the better word there. Like, it's like, if you're not breaking it down or setting yourself up for success, or just like thinking, okay, like taking a second when you're making that list and being like, is this actually like realistic today? Like, I know maybe today the kids are at school or whatever, I have babysitters, like maybe I can do 10 things like today, but like on a weekend when you have everybody home and all the dogs, like maybe it's 3 things or 2 things or 1 thing, like whatever it is. And just like adjusting and being flexible, like you said, is really important there too. I also saw this thing on TikTok, of course, of somebody saying the long way is the shortcut because the shortcut never gets you there. And I really liked that, because if you're always like, I don't want to say like half-assing, but like taking the shortcut with things, like I said, for me, I'm trying to do 8 things at once, and then I have these 5 things that are all half done, and then I'm not actually getting anything done. So if you just like take the longer route, in air quotes, but actually like just do the one task, I think that's like the more beneficial way. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's perfect for this episode, because like that's exactly what like makes sense to me here, is like my body is trying to, or brain maybe is trying to take shortcuts and think, oh, I can do these all things at the same time. Like that'll be faster, right? I'm doing them all at the same time. And it's like, no, actually, let's take a step back and reframe that. And I talk about slowing down in like so many areas of my life, and like work, especially, with just like making little silly mistakes or missing other, like when I'm checking somebody else's work, maybe a student's work or something. Like we have tons of student workers make graphics and things for us, and like then it's still on me when I'm posting it, and I don't see their mistake that they made. So like, just slowing down and being like really intentional about taking those extra few seconds to check my work, typing slower than normal, anything to just kind of like make my life easier is something that I want to be better at.
Yeah, another thing that I've found is it's just phone use. I mean, in general, whether that's social media, I'm constantly checking my email, or even FaceTime. I think being in Costa Rica, I have obviously that need, that craving to, talk with family and friends back home. But I've also noticed that like being attached to my phone, whether it's for that reason or something else, that's just yet another thing that I'm doing while I'm doing 2 to 3 other things. So I think something that I've noticed, especially over the past couple of days and weeks, that I've been really focusing on this is just whether it's, turning off notifications or putting my phone on kind of do not disturb, or just even leaving it out of sight, out of mind type of thing, has been something that's been huge for me. It's like, especially that last one, out of sight, out of mind. Like it's not even there where I'm like, oh, I need to pick it up and check like the time. No, I don't. Like, I mean, I have a watch. Like if I really needed to check the time, like I have a watch. There's other ways to do that. But I do feel like screens in general for me is something that just sneaks up on me in terms of like the example I gave earlier. But it's like, okay, I'm holding my daughter and I'm on my phone FaceTiming, and then Sophie pops in and like asks something, and I'm like, I know now where it's coming from and why I'm so irritable, but really doing what I can to kind of limit that limit that noise. I refer to it as like the noise that comes with a screen. Yeah. And that's just something that, of all the things we're doing in this, day to day and lifetime, I'm like, although it has its purpose, there's also a time and place for that as well.
I also struggle with the phone. My job is to post on social media, and a lot of times I feel like I'll use that as an excuse, like, oh, I'm just like looking for inspiration, and I'm like scrolling on TikTok for an hour. Like, okay, no, like that's not my job. So being more intentional with, there's the iPhone gives you these different focuses that you can like only let calls through, which like if it's an emergency, somebody's gonna call over texting, so like, okay, maybe that's like something you do. Or on my desktop or my MacBook, I have like, I don't have any notifications come up. So like while I'm at work, if I'm typing something or doing something, like I'm not seeing messages pop up and just like going to the corner of that, seeing that notification and wanting to respond right away. And that's another thing I struggle with too, is feeling like I need to immediately respond to somebody. And I have, even like having my read receipts on for like my family and stuff, like whatever, like seeing, like, I don't need to have my read receipts on for people, like maybe my mom, but like, that's like, even then she doesn't even probably care. Like, so like having, whatever tools or things you need to put into place so that you don't feel like you need to respond right away. Maybe having your read receipts off, not even seeing the notification right away. I'm pretty sure Marina, one of my best friends, like has her phone like permanently on do not disturb and only lets calls like at all hours of the day. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like I guess you just do it, right? Like it would just be like fine. And maybe I should try doing that. But no text is that important that needs an immediate response. And like I said, I'm on my phone all the time anyway to post or repost things. So like I'll eventually see it even if I have my notifications off. Like it's not like I'm going to go days without seeing a text, So maybe doing things like that is something that could also help with, I can't multitask by texting and doing something at work if I don't even know that there's a text to respond to, right? Like setting yourself up for, I think Marina talked about this. I had her on for an episode and she was talking about like making bad habits harder is like a way to kind of, instead of being like, oh, I'm just not going to look at my phone. Like that's a hard thing to do, right? But like giving yourself, limiting those notifications altogether is like, okay, of course I'm not going to look at my phone if it's not buzzing every few minutes or whatever. Like, so not that my phone's buzzing every few minutes, but and however often it buzzes or whatever, seeing those notifications, like to maybe turning Instagram notifications off or whatever it is to kind of make your life a little bit easier, I think is huge. So that is such a good point that you bring up.
To go off of that, I think I love what your friend Marina does in terms of that default is do not disturb. I think that's something that I would love to try. I know it would be challenging and there'd still be this like kind of itch to like check it. But I think one thing that I've also been trying to kind of like when you talk about those read receipts on WhatsApp, I'm like, I have, my little double check or like they turn blue when, or like I read that message. And something that I've been trying to do is just like, hey, I see this, I'll get back to you. Like I'm not doing the best that I can, meaning I'm still checking it pretty quickly, but I've tried to at least provide that space and that time for myself to be like, I might have checked it because I'm already checking my phone too much, but at least the next positive decision that I can make is to not take the time away from my task and like answer it. So I'm like, okay, well, they've seen that I've read it, but let me at least just shoot them a message saying, we'll respond later type of thing. So I think that's something that has bought me a little bit more peace, I guess I can say, in terms of not full, like, okay, 5-10 minutes diverted because I'm like thinking about how to like respond to this text. But I do kind of like taking the next step, I would say, is don't even realize that text is there. Put your phone on do not disturb. So it's like full attention on the task at hand.
I love that. I think that is like a perfect transition step into trying to not do it at all. I see this, I'll get back to you. I think that's like a healthy first step in this too. Like it's hard to just go cold turkey, do not disturb. So I love that. Maybe that's something that I can start doing as well too. And sometimes one other thing on that is like, even if I don't have my read receipts on, I'll like mark it as unread. So like I'll still like I will look at it, but then I can make that decision like, okay, I don't need to respond to this right now. Mark it as unread so that I still have the notification. And then it's a reminder to go back later to respond, because if I don't do that, I will forget to answer altogether.
Yeah, I think recently I've been really leaning into this like concept of trying to find things that like take my complete focus, meaning I physically cannot be doing something else. One of the funniest things that I've been implementing in my day, I'm not sure if it's as fun for my littlest one, Riley, but karaoke sessions in the morning. We've got this little karaoke set and definitely was not for me, but I've been using it more than Sophie. And like things like singing, reading, it just I've noticed like music in general kind of does that for me, but it just really forces me to be right where my feet are and not have my mind wandering or thinking about what's next, what I have to do. And especially just, I'm not a good singer, but I do enjoy it. And it's something that, um, it just keeps me grounded in the moment. Or I'm outside and I'm walking and I literally don't bring my phone, or my phone is kind of just out of sight. So I'm just walking. And I think it's actually a little throwback, but when you first introduced your mindfulness techniques in Costa Rica and taught that workshop for the glass students, the 5 4 3 2 1 method is something that I love to use when I'm out walking. So just trying to find, instead of just like no screens, right? Like we talk about kind of implementing and putting things, I kind of think of it like crowding out, but like what are you adding, right? That's good and going to help with this topic is, yeah, any mindfulness technique where you're being able to, okay, hear the things and see the things, and it just like truly bringing awareness to your senses, for me, has felt very recharging. So trying to add more of those activities to my day.
I love that as a solution to multitasking and trying to not multitask, right? Like that makes perfect sense when you, like we talked about, making those things, the bad habits harder, like doing things where you simply cannot be doing anything else. I have just gotten into reading physical books, but before that I was listening to audiobooks while driving, which I guess is technically multitasking, but like finding a way where I'm like, okay, I'm just sitting here reading a book and my phone's in the other room, whatever, like no one else is here to distract me. Like that is, and then after you do things like that, you feel so like recharged and you're pouring into your own cup. Like it just is a win-win because you're getting like whatever task, or you're feeling good about doing that done, like getting that done. And then you're also just like gonna feel good naturally after that. And it's just like a win-win. So I love that kind of mindset shift of like, okay, what can I do that's like maybe not something I have to get done, but just something I want to do or can do that will reset me and kind of refuel me to then be able to like sit back down and grind maybe. And I love your I think at the top of the episode you talked about like building in breaks and scheduling in breaks, and that's something that like seems like not maybe like it looks like people would look down upon like doing that, but I think it's so huge. Like the whole concept of rest and building in rest is like something that I think like the world needs to like rethink about and redefine, because rest is so important, and building in those breaks and taking time to like reset yourself is like so huge. And even if the break is like doing a karaoke dance party, like that is so fun. I love that. And I know you used to do that even back when I was in Costa Rica, and like I love that that's something that like has continuously like reset and re-energized you like throughout the day. And like, yeah, that's so like such a good little fun thing to do with your family. And then you just like, okay, now I can like go about my day and I have a different attitude and mood. Like that's so huge.
I think on that note, I've really tried to embody this like idea of like winning the morning, because although it's not sometimes viewed as a reset, I think it's more just this like, okay, I'm going to create this like solid foundation for my day, and it could be then seen as a springboard into like having more energy, not like jumping up and immediately doing 3 to 4 things all at the same time. And I think when I really focus on that, winning the day, keeping that like, I'll say peace that I had from the night. I don't have peace at night. My little one wakes up many times, but maybe that's why it's like so even that more important for me, where it's just like when I'm able to make those decisions, I think, and set myself up for, again, this concept we keep coming back to of like setting yourself up for success. Like I look forward to my mornings when I have to put down my little one, and my routine recently has been, well, a few episodes behind, don't tell Allie, but I literally plug in my little headphones, put my phone out of sight, I play the podcast, and yes, sure, you could say I'm multitasking because I'm walking and listening to 86 F's to give, but that is something that talk about pouring into your cup, like that just sets me up for success. And that's something that I've just been adding more and more into my life of just, okay, what can I do where it's like, I might be, not able to not multitask 100% of the day, but like when I have that time, mainly in the mornings, how am I spending it? What are those decisions? What decisions I'm making. So I'm feeling better and able to tackle the rest of the day.
I think that's huge too. Like realizing like doing this 100%, doing anything 100% is impossible, right? Like I talk about this in many of these episodes, like starting slow and small with, reframing how you think about these things is huge because like, again, like if you're setting a goal and it's like, okay, I'm going to do this every single day for this month, like that is so impossible. But realizing like, okay, maybe it is just the morning where I can like, no multitasking allowed, even if you're walking and podcast listening, which I love so much, that is allowed. But like, okay, I'm not going to like also be scrolling on my phone and, whatever. Like there's ways to limit the multitasking and be like, okay, maybe in the afternoon I do have to hold my baby and make lunch or whatever, or I have to walk Puda and answer emails or do a work call or whatever it is. Like that might have to happen sometimes, but realizing finding those pockets of the day where you can be successful with it is huge. And then again, if it's the morning, like you're setting yourself up for the day. If it's the night, you're setting yourself up for the next day. Like it's finding ways to just set yourself up for success. I feel like that's really the moral of the story here.
I think too, to kind of echo that and like pull out one thing that I also just think is so important is just this awareness that like you are developing now, having this conversation, but then moving forward where it's like something that I'm like, oh, like I am multitasking right now. So say you were, walking Puda and answering emails, it's okay. And I think it's one of those things where it's like bringing non-judgmental awareness to those actions. So you are at least aware that like, okay, like I might feel a little bit like exhausted or stressed or irritable after doing this because I am balancing more than one thing or not as, too many things or whatever it may be. I think it just, that awareness is so crucial where it's going to happen. Like you said, it's not something that you physically probably possible to do 100% of the day, every single day of the week. But when you start to bring that awareness to, okay, I notice that I'm doing three things at once right now, have a little bit of kindness to yourself. Like, do you have to do this? If the answer is yes, then be patient with yourself. Like, hopefully like in another hour or so, like you can, maybe make a decision where it's okay, I got to make sure to recharge my battery after this one or something like that.
I love that. That's huge. I think like especially when you like you live with your family or like have roommates or whatever, like being like, guys, I just like had to do 8 things. I'm sorry if I'm like a little overwhelmed right now and not the nicest. Like I think that's huge because sometimes we just act and we don't like explain why, or maybe we don't even know why. And having, like you said, this reflection and being like, okay, I know if I'm going to decide to do these 3 things at the same time, I'm going to run out of my like patience or whatever it is, like the maybe the level of like patience I have to be kind to other people is going to kind of run thin. So knowing that, and then it's like, okay, I can give my family a heads up, or I can maybe not call my mom right now, or if she, if she needs, my mom is the queen of needing like help with tech things. And sometimes when she calls, I obviously want to help her, but if I'm in like a mood already and then I'm like, mom, like it's just this button, like, and I feel so bad after because I'm like, she doesn't get it. Like, of course she's asking a question, like, why am I being so rude? And like, I grew up with the computer in front of my face. Like, of course I know how to work it. So like things like that, where it's like, maybe I'd be like, mom, I like, if this is something like you really need right now, like, can I just have like 5 minutes, like take a breather and then I'll help you or whatever, say, call my brother or something else where I can like, having that awareness instead of being like trying to just do it all. And then you're like being mean or like running, just thin or spreading yourself too thin. I think that awareness is huge. And then also the awareness to say, okay, maybe I do need to like do something, like you said, after this to kind of recharge and refuel. That's also like such a great point. I love that. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to be mean to myself about it, but how can I be better after this? I think that's huge. And I think something that we talked about here a lot is setting ourselves up for success and just like the goal is to have that like overarching level of peace throughout the day. And I know, like we said, it's not able to be 100% of the time, but finding those pockets where we can like find that little piece and win the day and find your little like vacation of the day, whether that's the karaoke party, the walk with your podcasts, like calling a friend or FaceTiming home. Like that's like those are huge things to do. And then the rest of the day might, have to be a bit of a grind. But I think, figuring out how to balance that is huge. And balance is another thing I'm working on. And I know that's a big word for you as well. So yeah, lots of key takeaways from this episode. But I wanted to kind of segue into something we could restock for, since we're trying to 86 multitasking, something we can bring into our lives. And I think we talked about a lot of things just now that we could bring in. So if you want your restock to be something completely unrelated to this episode, feel free, Meg. I'm always trying to restock my patience in all areas of my life. And I feel like that's a good one here. Like you said, kind of like we just talked about, knowing when my patience is out and how to interact with people, but then also just having more of it to begin with is something I'm working on. And both patience with myself and patience with my dog, my coworkers, my parents, people I interact with, my friends, all around. So I think that is something that I would like to restock after this conversation to kind of move forward with the 86ing of multitasking. How about you?
I think, although mine will be on topic, so two things come to mind. One, just I think something as athletes, as we've learned, is just how important preparation is. And when I think about trying to win the day, which is a huge task, so obviously figuring out ways to break that down would be step one. But setting yourself up for success. We have thrown that phrase around too many times, but I think really connecting it back to just, when we talk about preparation, when we talk about practice, I think of it in this sense as, okay, your to-do list is your preparation, and it's looking at my day as a whole, thinking, okay, I've got XYZ going on. What should I be, putting on my to-do list, and setting expectations as realistically as possible. And then from there, that second one being really restocking this, like, how many decisions I make for myself. I recently came across a quote where it was, every decision you make is a reflection of how much you love yourself. And that really was just like mind-blowing, eye-opening, because I'm like, I don't think I make enough decisions where that reflection is like for me. And now, again, it's not always possible that I can make a decision for me, but I have found that now, bringing this awareness to, I do not do well with multitasking. If I am making decisions throughout my day that is contributing to me taking on more and more things at one time, that's not an example of me taking care of what I need. So I think really bringing that concept and restocking my, I guess you could say, decision-making abilities, where I'm weighing the repercussions for myself in the mix, because I feel like all too often I just jump to, okay, yeah, you need this done, I'll do that. Okay, best friend, coworkers calling, although I'm already doing 2 to 3 things, I'm going to pick up, I want to make more decisions for me in that moment when I can.
I think that is a perfect restock for life in general, but for this episode too, it fully ties a ribbon on what we were talking about. I love both of those quotes that you just shared, and then the one earlier about what are you saying, saying yes meaning you're saying no to, that is both of those are really things I want to think about before making decisions. So those are 2 takeaways for me for sure. Thank you for sharing both of those quotes. I love little nuggets that just kind of, like you said, blow your mind. Yeah, I think we kind of crushed that. Do you have any final thoughts, Meg? I love talking about self-growth and things with people that are on the same wavelength, and I feel like we're both in different areas of life trying to do the same thing, and it's cool to reflect and learn from each other. And so I'm just so grateful that you joined us on the pod today. Yeah, it's been so fun chatting with you, and I'm just feeling very grateful, and this conversation really just refueled me. So yeah, it's been so fun to have you on.
I was going to say, in terms of, I just want to thank you and express how grateful I am for you, because I think you've obviously mentioned this podcast, this thing that you've created is a very therapeutic thing for you. Just listening, it's therapeutic for me. I love tuning in. Like I said, that's a big part of my mornings. But also yeah, I see why it's therapeutic, you creating this, because having this conversation today is just it's inspiring me to just continue on with this journey of just self growth and growth in general, but also specifically multitasking and trying to, create healthier habits in my day. So, yeah, just super thankful for our relationship and how it started in Costa Rica, but it's blossomed into something that's across several thousand miles. And
Yes.
yeah, just really, really, yeah, thankful for where we are at in life today together and tackling life's challenges in unique ways, but nevertheless, there's so many overlapping things at the same time that we're all working on trying to do better.
Totally. That means so much. I'm glad it was equally as therapeutic for you as it is for me. I talked about wanting to like post online in Costa Rica. That was like, I think we did a goal setting workshop, and like that was like my big goal, and I would break it down, and then here we are like 5 years later or 4 years later, and I'm like finally was able to like build up the courage to do it. And it's so cool to have you on as like to when you were part of like that beginning conceptual of this process. So like it was so cool to have people that like have seen me like want to do this and then finally have support from you guys doing it. Is just like the coolest thing ever. So I'm feeling very grateful as well. Yeah, I always end every episode telling everyone that if no one's told you recently, I love you, I'm proud of you, and you're kicking life's butt. So that's for you, Meg, and that's for everyone listening. Keep 86ing multitasking or whatever you, the listeners, are 86ing right now. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie.